Greetings! Anton here. I am back from my vacation, a much needed one. It was a fantastic time. Absolutely perfect week filled with, just great memories, shooting some guns, fantastic food, just perfect. So in this week's devlog, what I'm going to do, because I haven't yet gotten enough stuff together to do another update push. Basically, the next one is going to be coming next Friday, and it's going to be a couple new toys and a whole bunch of bug fixes. I've been collating all of the things that are sort of busted and broken and need tweaking off of the various sorts of communities, building myself a priority list, and that's what I'm going to be primarily doing this coming week. So what I thought I would do this week is take you on a little bit of a tour of what I got to shoot this past week. Really interesting selection of things. I've, of course, going back to Battlefield Vegas, I'm sort of slowly working my way through their entire collection of things. So yeah, so let's take a look at it. I've got video footage of most of these, a couple of them I don't. Also, the angle is a little could be a little better on a few of these, just because we were on the sort of last booth in the room, and so it was a little difficult with the RSO there to get a good angle. But either way, got what I got. So starting out, I finally fired the FN 57. A whole bunch of you have been yelling for this pistol for the longest time, and so I decided to see what it was all about. And yeah, I gotta admit, I made a little post on the subreddit about this. I can understand what it does well. You know, what makes it special, which is that it's this high velocity round. If you actually have the military rounds for it, it has this armor penetrating capability. The higher velocity means you're going to have a flatter trajectory over a longer distance, which, you know, is important. But man, oh man, this still feels in every way like a first or second generation of something that needed significantly more development. Everything is a tight fit on it. The safety position is just moronic. And this is not true of all polymer pistols, but it just felt cheap, which I know it isn't. This is an expensive pistol that shoots an expensive round, but I can't say that I enjoyed the firing experience. The recoil impulse was pretty sharp, understandably, given the sort of high velocity round. About the intensity of a 9, but a sort of different topology or curve to it. I'm sure it does the job, but if you're selecting a range toy, as it were, it'd be pretty freaking low down on my list. So the next pistol I shot, I don't have video of this one, is the, once again, from very frequent user request. Everyone's like, well, are you going to put in an FNX or an FNP? And I finally shot one, and man, oh man, I get it. I super get it. Having shot in a prior trip, shooting a USP and an MK23, and obviously firing tons of 1911s and such in the past. For a 45, this sucker is smooth and controllable. It was just great grip feel, great trigger. I really liked it. So I could totally imagine owning one of these, and one of these is totally going to make its way into the game at some point, because it looks sweet, and it's just nice to know that it both looks sweet and it does what it does very well, ergonomically. So jumping back in time a little bit, basically because I've already fired a ton of World War II era SMGs, although there was one I had missed that was in their collection. That I was able to pull out. But I realized I hadn't fired a lot of post-war ones, except the really sort of, but not, you know, a little older than modern sort of thing. So they had a Model 38, which I got to fire. It was everything was a little stiff because I think it needed some cleaning and oiling, but it was fantastic. It was everything you hear about the stability of firing a Model 38, how smooth it is. It moves more side to side as you're firing then it moves up. Supremely controllable. Just a smooth, pleasant, experience. Adored it. A little less enjoyable. These two were both interesting cases in that the Walther MPL or MPK and the Beretta PM12 were both interesting, especially because I hadn't really done any sort of video research on these two before. I'd only seen pictures of them, and so a couple things. One, the MPK was smaller than I expected it to be in real life. The PM12 was larger than I expected them to be. They're both very, sort of sturdy devices. They're cool. They've got that really nice, 60s, 70s sort of look to them. But one of the things I was surprised at was how both of these had magazine safeties, meaning that you couldn't even operate the bolt while it was on safe. And I just found it sort of historically fascinating that was something that sort of came into prominence for a while after the World War II period, and then clearly has fallen out of prominence, with exception to stuff that is sort of AK pattern or is functioning within that sort of operational sphere, that part of the world, and has taken sort of UX cues to it. The MPK had a few feeding problems, but it's an older piece. I try now, especially concerning the guns there are treated quite roughly. I try not to hold that against anything I fire there, because who knows how many tens of thousands of rounds have gone through all of those. But it was cool. I mean, uncomfortable stock, but neat. PM12 as well. Nothing really sort of really stand out, but I want to put them both in just because they're good at representing a sidearm from parts of the world that aren't really represented arsenal-wise in the game very well. And then easily the goofiest SMG I fired from home country, the Polish Rak PM63, which is, I'm not entirely convinced that this gun is not just a giant troll. I don't know if you've ever heard or seen this one, but it is an open bolt slide fire SMG that amongst its many incredibly well designed and useful features has a handguard on the front, so your hand doesn't slip up from the foregrip in front of the barrel. That doesn't work if the gun is ready, because you pull the slide back and the handguard goes into the receiver of the gun, thus not making it so your hand can't flip in front. So I can't tell exactly when that feature is supposed to be useful. I just let off a whole bunch of sparks when I was firing. I mean, it was fun in that way that doing anything dangerous feeling is fun. But man, if one SMG that I've fired deserves the prime jank award, it is definitely the PM63. Oh my goodness. Worth firing if you ever get a chance, though. So moving on to more modern fare, I finally, after seeing 1.5 million arguments on the internet between the MPX and the Scorpion Evo, I fired them both, and where to start? Let's start with with Anton's thumb down. The Scorpion Evo. This was, I'm sorry if you're a fan of this one. I know it looks cool, especially in profile. It shows up in games here and then, but I was not a fan. And I know it's because of its mode of operation, but a really sharp and surprising recoil impulse for it firing a 9. The overall ergonomics weren't terrible on it. The build quality still felt like it was there, but I can't imagine in terms of owning, because both of these are range toys fundamentally for a regular old civilian. I can't imagine wanting to own that unless your primary thing is, I want something that kicks more than a 9mm should, so it just feels more intense. Because beyond that, Yeah, I don't get it. It felt heavier than it needed to be. Just once again, despite the impulse on it, and yeah, sorry, CZ, you make some beautiful things. This is not one of them, especially compared to the MPX, which after firing it, I get why people rave about this device. Incredible ergonomics. The button placement alone on your magazine and your bolt release on the right side, and I believe your backup mag release on the left. It felt great, had great balance. I know the one that I fired has a bunch of FDE crap on it, so, and even that could not detract from my enjoyment whatsoever. Just really beautiful, incredibly smooth, easy to control, a true inheritor of the MP5's legacy as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, I would definitely own, just not with that FDE crap, and I'm not a fan of that stock style either. Whew, so that gets us through our sort of SMGs and our carbines. Next up, I had actually wanted to fire a 416 finally, but it's humorous to me, especially because the sort of reputation that the 416 has from a reliability standpoint, because both the folks over at BF, and I even saw a post a while back from one of their armors talking about this. The 416 is always down. It doesn't have anything approaching the reliability. We're running far too many rounds through this of an M4 or even an M16. And so every single freaking time I've gone to shoot there, the 416 is down yet again, being repaired. So I'm sure I'll get to report back on how I feel about it at some point, I guess. But that's fine, because what I subbed into it was sort of a piece of Italian failure that was just too perfect to experience, which was the ARX160, which I thought originally, the first time I saw this rifle, I was like, oh man, this thing looks so stupid. This has to be built for the American civilian market. The sort that are like, I want something halfway in between an AR pattern rifle and a Halo gun. And no, apparently, this thing has apparently been built for the Italian military, and just wow. It's as a designer, it's one of those things that I look at it, and the only way I feel I can explain certain things is that the part of the design team was like, let's do a couple things different just to with people. Really stupid button placement, both relative to each other and on the frame itself. Needlessly bulky. The fact that the ejection port is open on both sides means no matter how you fire the thing, you're getting gassed in the face. I mean, other than the fact that it still just manages to fire bullets, I don't think I have a good thing to say about it. And I kind of feel so. Oh, and it takes, standard magazines. I don't think I have, although it won't take PMags, actually. We had to go about firing this twice, and we couldn't get any of the PMags to slot up into it initially. We had to use one that had been shaved down. Oh, just, yeah. On to something great, though, which I'm sorry, CZ, I know I sort of ripped on you before with the Evo, but man, oh man, they earned most of their points back with a gun that's definitely going in H3 at some point, both because of its gorgeous looks, and after firing it, just a great experience. The CZ Bren 805, which just looks super sweet, has a safe semi 2-round burst full auto fire selector. The 2 versus 3 makes sense because the cyclic rate on this thing is super fast. Even though it looks like a SCAR 16 in certain ways, it doesn't fire as slow as one. In fact, despite the sort of aesthetic similarities, like nothing is similar to the actual experience of firing a Scar. Has, weirdly enough, a sort of like, same sort of thing I mentioned before, a sort of bolt safety, or a bolt lock. When it's on safe, you can't move the bolt. My understanding is that by putting it on safe, you can lock the bolt forward or back. Pretty sharp recoil impulse, but not unpleasant, but just felt great. Great balance. Really, really cool. I want to fire it again just to be able to pay more attention to it in the future. Cool stuff. Let's see here. Oh, I got around to finally firing a FAL, which was delightful. I mean, you feel every ounce of power that a rifle firing that cartridge has. Just feels truly utilitarian. The one I fired was beat to hell, which just felt appropriate, you know, and it totally left this like delightful splotchy blood bruise on my shoulder firing it, because I have programmer noodle arms, and as you can see in all of this video, I have no fucking clue how to hold these things correctly because I don't shoot frequently enough, and in these sorts of situations I'm always in a rush and paying attention to far too many other things other than proper stance, you know, and body mechanics. And so that sucker just punched me in the shoulder repeatedly. So parting kiss, but delightful. And we've got Stefan actually recently completed a beautiful OG FAL, and it's going to be going into the game probably sometime this month, because even though I was going to just do really modern guns this month, I've needed to get the FAL in for a while, and the battle rifle category is thin in the game, so that's definitely going to go in. I fired an AR180, which was the sort of civilian model, semi-only. Cool little, you know, cool rifle. Has, you know, I love firing things that are sort of in the category of futures that weren't, things that sort of, that for some combination of happenstance and sort of whatever else became prominent, didn't, you know, continue to be developed conceptually, but had a bunch of cool ideas. Has an incredibly low bore axis on it. This one I had a little bit of troubles with. We couldn't figure out why the mag wouldn't remain seated, which is fun because we were just like, just press it in using the table, and I was able to get through the whole mag, whatever works, which felt pretty cool. But neat piece, lighter than I thought it would be. And then lastly, I finally did it. I fired the pig. I fired an M60 E3, and oh my goodness, it feels ridiculous to fire an M60. Even firing off of a bipod, the amount that it sort of like bounces against you is just delightful. It's a great. I'm tripping up here because I don't have words to articulate just how enjoyable it was to fire. It's definitely on. It'll be in by the end of the year, rest assured. The slower cyclic rate, it's like it almost gives you more time to really enjoy the experience of firing. So yeah. So that was my experience with various firearms in my latest research trip. Air quotes around that. Yeah, and it's definitely solidified. You know, what's going to eventually go in the game and what isn't. I mean, I still put firearms in the game that I think suck. So don't think just because I badmouth something in this that it won't eventually find its way in. It just tends to influence, how to put this, the priority and how much I actually seek out models and commission them and such based on whether I like them a lot. But I picked a lot of things here in part because they were representative of eras or types of firearms that I didn't have specific experience with. And the thing that you find, even reading everything you can about a given firearm, watching every video that someone has up on YouTube, there's always stuff that you end up when you pick it up for yourself and fire it are not represented in any of that material, big and small, whether it's a little UX thing or a given state that is not possible to be able to change when the weapon is in a given state. And that's why it makes doing this sort of direct research so valuable. The game simply wouldn't be what it is had I not done all of these trips. Whew, so there you have it. That was our fun for the week. I'm going to jump right back into working on bug fixes. I know the LMGs have a whole bunch of stuff that needs fixing, some new input stuff. I think I've got like 140 item near-term to-do list, but I'll take my time getting through it, and we'll have a whole bunch of new great toys for you next week. Hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Peace.